How would you propose stimulating the economy and creating jobs?
Just give you an answer here that's the truth, that doesn't sound too repetitive. I agree with everything that was said. The basics are cut taxes drastically, end corporate taxes, end the estate tax or the death tax, end government regulations. By the way, concerning regulations, back in the 1990s, I worked for an organization, a lobbying group, that was a conservative group that had the same values of a lot of the Tea Party and 9/12 groups. We fought government regulations. I know from personal experience the strangling, suffocating effect of government regulations on businesses, small, medium, and large. When I get elected to the U.S. House of Representatives, one of the first things on my plate, my agenda includes to get rid of the EPA, bring it down to the state level, keep the environmental groups at the state and local level, and the destructive policies of the EPA. Cap and trade has been mentioned a few times tonight. I've read most of the cap and trade bill. Most of the congressmen down there have not read the 1,700 plus pages. This deal, you've heard how bad health care, the Obamacare is. Cap and trade, if it passes, is going to be like cyanide on our American economy. These government regulations, all in the name of a myth or a fraud called global warming, we need to end this. The EPA has already wreaked havoc on our economy. So another thing, and I agree with Mr. Smith on this, something that's never addressed by both of the major political parties, we need to renegotiate or end these trade deals. I predicted or prophesized back in the 90s and 96 that these trade deals like NAFTA would destroy our economy. Now here it is over 12 years later. Look at what on earth has happened to our country. All of our jobs are going to Red China. And I understand.
It's time to finish up. Many legislators measure success by the amount of money that they bring back to the district from Washington. Would you consider this an effective measurement, and why or why not?
Campaigning with promises for, bags of goodies for the constituents is over. We cannot afford to do this any longer, and that'll turn off maybe a lot of the moderates and liberals in the audience, but the fact of the matter is our budget deficits, our trade deficits have skyrocketed to the point where we can't go back to the system the way it used to be. We need to fully understand that our government is broke, and that's another reason for the life of me why I don't understand why we're pushing through cap and trade and Obamacare, health care, socialized medicine that's going to drastically increase the deficit even more. And then we have the problem of currency manipulation from Red China that's got to end. So I believe we've got to end the earmarks. We need to drive down the budget deficit. And finally, we've got to make sure that deals like Obamacare and cap and trade do not pass.
With the current economic crisis, a lot of focus has shifted to monetary policy. Would you support increasing or decreasing the power of the private Federal Reserve System, and why?
I really appreciate that question. To summarize my views on the Federal Reserve Bank, right here, this button I carry around with me everywhere, End the Fed. It's pretty popular with the Tea Party movement, I understand. I fully understood the abuse of power of the Fed back in 1994 when a best-selling book came out called The Creature from Jekyll Island. You should pick it up. It will illuminate you to an unbelievable degree as to how we've been conned by our government. Number one, the Federal Reserve Bank is not federal. There's some that dispute that, whether or not it is. They have way too much control. And one of the things I would do if I was in the U.S. Congress right now is join Congressman Ron Paul in his bill to hold the Federal Reserve Bank accountable. Now, some may say, well, you can't just end it flat out. Well, I understand. Maybe we've got to do it piecemeal. But is there anything so illogical or unreasonable? Is it unreasonable to expect to at least audit the Fed? I do believe they need to be audited. They have way too much power. And since Obama became president of the United States, the power of the Fed has increased exponentially. Something's got to be done about this.
Paul, thank you. Paul, the fourth question is for you, and it is, with the current discussion on entitlement spending, Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps, Social Security, and our budget deficits, what actions will you take to control entitlement spending in order to balance the budget?
The first thing I would do, if I was in Congress right now or when I get elected, is to reverse this trend toward big government. And one of the things I would do is end the entitlements, decrease. We have to reevaluate Social Security and how it functions. One of the reasons why we're in this mess now is because too many politicians on both sides of the aisle over the past 20 years have not really done anything about real reform when it concerns Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. So we have to look at real reform. The other thing we've got to do is make sure, of course there's not much we can do right now in our capacity as candidates except lobby and maybe make calls to our congressmen, but we need to stop this atrocious Obamacare bill. And I'm hearing more and more every day now, there's good news out there in the horizon, Matt and Jim and Mr. Smith, that many states across the country, there's over 12 of them now, with Virginia leading the way, are saying, no, we're not going to accept socialized medicine, Obamacare, and then their state legislatures, according to the 10th Amendment and the Sovereignty Movement, States Federal Nullification Act that goes back to 1798, the states are waking up and doing their constitutional duty and saying no more of this. And I will continue that trend. If I get elected to the U.S. Congress, no Obamacare, no cap and trade, no expansion of entitlements, and no more bloated federal government.
And it is regarding Social Security specifically. How would you propose saving it so that those who paid into it can receive the benefits while still allowing the program to go forward?
Illicit heart, I'm for free enterprise, and for a long time I've been against any government involvement in our lives. That's why I'm so vocal against cap and trade and Obamacare and the EPA and everything else. But with the issue of Social Security, it's already gotten beyond where it should have gotten 20 years ago. I remember Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill got together and they tried to address this. But everything they've done the past 20 or 30 years has been temporary band-aids or stopgap measures. That's not going to work anymore. And I agree with Jim that it started off as a safety net, and it was just supposed to be for retirees. And I forget the exact number, but I think back then, for every person that received Social Security back when it started, there was at least 70 people paying into that system. Now I think the ratio is down to an ungodly 3 to 1, and who knows what it's going to be like. I heard it's going to be 2 to 1 or worse within 5 to 10 years. Obviously, with the economy, with the trade deficits, with the budget deficits exploding, with currency manipulation from Red China, and I understand they hold some of those assets also. And you would not believe, we don't have time to go into it now, Jim, Matt, and Doyle, but the backroom deals and the con games that are being played. Right now, when you put money into Social Security, the government takes it out every day, every week, and they slide it into another program. They borrow from it. That's not what's supposed to happen. And the other thing, why we're at the problem we're at now, is too many people, as Jim addressed, are receiving Social Security benefits that don't deserve it.
Of the following tax proposals, the fair tax, flat tax, and our current system, which system would you prefer and how would you propose to get there?
John F. Kennedy was the first president in modern history to address the tax issue and actually had the first major decreases since World War II in taxes overall. And a lot of people are stunned to find that out. It wasn't Ronald Reagan. He followed John F. Kennedy's platform. I believe that what we need to do is what John F. Kennedy and then Ronald Reagan in the 80s did, was to drastically lower the capital gains tax, drastically lower corporate taxes. I believe corporations should not be paying any taxes. I firmly believe that. And decrease severely the capital gains taxes. John F. Kennedy used to say, a rising tide lifts all boats. And that's what we need to start doing. We need to start lifting all the boats out there, all the people that are losing their homes. We're being taxed to death. The bottom line is, I do believe in a fair tax, in a sales tax. But we've got to work it so that the poor aren't affected. I believe in rebates for those people, etc. But until we get to that point of a fair tax, I believe that we still need to drastically reduce the tax rate as it is now.